please welcome the Colonel, Colonel Sanders, to PTN.
Oh, that was a familiar tune, too.
Hey, that crowd appreciates you.
Howdy, folks.
I think they like you.
Thank you, Bill. They wanting some of that chicken.
They want some, yeah.
You're right.
I think that's the housewives of America thanking you for fixing dinner tonight. Colonel Sanders, it is great to have you here.
It's nice to be here. It's a wonderful establishment, wonderful programs you're doing. I'm happy.
Colonel, is it true you're 89 years old?
I was 89 last September. I'm on my way to the 90th now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't you believe in retirement?
No. Not a bit in the world. When the Lord put old Father Adam here, he never told him to quit at 65, did he?
That's right.
He's worked for 30 years.
Right on.
I think as long as you've got health and ability, why, use it to the end. And you divide that time up between your own business and between Christ's time, too. It's all good, you know.
Colonel, you have a saying that says you're once a man and twice a child. What do you mean by that?
All right. All these little tots here, 6, 7, 8 years old, we love them. They're little tots, but they get to be where they kind of feist in, going on their own, while they're their own. But then when you get like my age, 90, 95, 96, well, in the 80s, you're back to, you need care and attention and love just like a little kid does.
There you go.
Well, you can't do for yourself.
So you have a second
it's
childhood, really.
Once a man, twice a child. We get the beginning and the end.
You love kids, don't you?
Sir?
You love children, don't you?
I dearly love children, yes, they're a great thing. Here you go.
You have grandchildren?
I have 5 grandchildren and 14 great-grandchildren.
I bet they're spoiled. Do you spoil them?
Sir?
Do you spoil them?
Not too badly.
Not
no.
too bad.
No, you spoiling, sir. You just love them.
Oh,
There you go.
I was told you were visiting, I don't know where it was, and you got involved with some children at a children's home. And you were supposed to go to a banquet, and you didn't go to the banquet. You stayed with the children.
Stayed with your children, that's right. Children, nothing but love. You're surrounded with love when you're surrounded with a bunch of children. They don't know anything. They don't know hate or nothing. They got none of the troubles of the world bother them. They're just living. They're an inspiration for us all to grow by. And you just can't help but admire them. You take a little bit of thought. Why, he's so observing and trying to catch on to everything.
Yeah.
And then when they get to where they can walk and toddle around the house, they're into everything in the world. They're exploring and learning. It's just wonderful to see them developing. Mm-hmm. They are.
Yeah.
They're sweet and good.
Colonel, you're a legend.
And what's that?
You're a living legend, and in your own time, and that's not too many people have that happen to them. But you weren't always a legend. What happened? What were you doing before you became famous? In about 1956, you started making.
I was working for a living. I operated a restaurant for about 25 years.
Yes.
Trying to serve the best food that I could serve to the public. That's where I developed my chicken recipe, that I wanted to have the best chicken in my restaurant than any competitor had. So I was on the highway where they go to Florida or to the Smoky Mountains, and as they went down to the place, I wanted to get them as they come back. And you'd find out surprising how long they forgot all about the price of the food before they forgot the quality. They come back again for that good food. And I was listening to Duncan Hines' Adventures of Good Eating, and that gave me a very select clientele, too. I had a moral obligation to give people something good, something worthwhile, see? And I loved it. And then they come along and surveyed this interstate system. It went 7 miles back of me, left me something high and dry. I was 66 years old. I couldn't afford to quit. Of course, when they were talking about it for 3 or 4 years before, looked like it was going to be a reality, I begun to put out a guinea pig franchise because I was thinking, what can I do next? They're going to wipe out this restaurant. And I thought, well, I'll try to franchise the chicken. So by getting 4 or 5 of these guinea pig franchises, I proved to myself that I had a product that would take with the public, profitable to the restaurant man, and also it would go. Just a mere matter of getting behind it and getting it put over if we could. So when they did survey the system, I was left sitting high and dry, so that wiped me out.
Isn't that something? You know, here's a case where disaster really was a blessing.
Yeah.
Something that could have destroyed you, God turned it around, really. I think sometimes people think that, you know, instead of laying down and dying when the disaster comes, you can use it as stepping stones to
It's a
something
stepping
greater.
stone for something else. There's no question about that. So my question was, what could I save out of that wreck? You see, I knew it was going to be wrecked. And the chicken was taken. It's proven it was taken with the public. And all I had to do is stay with it and get it going. I think the moral to my life is don't quit at 65. Maybe your boat hasn't come in yet. See,
Your pastor's here with us today, Pastor Rogers from Louisville, Kentucky.
A
Brother
great man he is, too.
Brother Roger, we want to welcome you. We don't want to just leave you sitting there.
We're glad to be here, Jim.
I was in the hospital there about 4 or 5 years ago as observation and going to be prepared for operation for taking a polyp out of the big colon. And that's the forerunner of cancer, you see. Brother Rogers happened, he was in the come into my room, and before he left, he would have a pastoral prayer, and I love that. But he laid his hand on, I told him how simple the operation was going to be. They just ripped the skin there, you know, and cold there it was right before he pick out. He laid his hand on my stomach in the prayer and prayed to God that he'd remove the malady that caused my trouble. Next morning when they opened up, they had more polyp there than anything in the world. So, yeah, I remembered when it passed, but I didn't think of it. They gave you an enema the next morning to get the barium all out of the colon, you know, for the surgery. And I remember during that discharge of that barium that I heard something going plunk in the commode. Well, of course, it was milky looking. I couldn't see what it was. I just figured it might be some fecal matter out of the wrinkle of the colon, you see. And lo and behold, after finding nothing there, why, there's nothing but the Lord's work.
Praise
Took
God.
that polyp away.
Wow.
Hallelujah.
Brother Rogers, do you remember that situation?
I sure do remember that, Jim. This polyp had blocked the colonel's bowels, and it was a
Well, it
very
must have been
sick
quite
man.
large then.
Yes, it was quite large, and the physician went ahead and performed the surgery. But when he performed the surgery, he couldn't find the growth. And he searched in the intestine 10 inches both ways and couldn't find it. And of course, when you operate on someone as famous as Colonel Sanders, and it looks like it's been a mistake, well, the doctor is quite upset. And the head of the Surgical Review Board happened to be a famous surgeon who was a member of Evangel Tabernacle. He knew what had happened. But the Jewish attorney who performed the surgery didn't know, really, that it was a miracle of God and that God had healed him.